we're recording the class as usual. And this is me again, Dr. Sameh, and this is the TEFL course, the summer TEFL course. And these are the extra classes or the extra training workshops that I promised you. We're officially done with the course from last week, if you still remember. You even received your certifications, and I'm happy for that, and I'm congratulating you on that. Today, inshallah, we're doing two things. We're going to be talking about lesson planning and lesson structuring, so that next time we can, and so until we reach Wednesday, I'll give you something in the middle so that you can work on, and then on Wednesday you can implement it, and we can kind of see you in action, inshallah. So again, today is structuring, lesson structuring and sequencing, and also a bit about lesson planning. I think we all agree that planning is very important, and whether we're talking about lessons or anything else in life, right? Planning is thinking ahead, is organizing your thoughts and ideas about something, and even having contingency plans about something. You never know what may happen, so you're expecting things. You have in mind best case scenarios and also worst case scenarios. So again, this is week 7, and this is day 1, and this is the TEFL teacher training in the summer of 2024. So structuring and planning lessons, this is what we are here for tonight. So whatever that means when I say structuring a lesson, and whatever that means when I say planning a lesson, let's talk about that. Let's engage and talk about structuring lessons. And why would we structure lessons? Why do we have to have plans for lessons? Why? Let's talk about it. As language learners, we walked into classes for so long, and we have been recipients of knowledge and instruction given by our teachers. And to give our teachers credit, we belong to times and generations when teaching was serious, when teaching was professional, and we had teachers who walked into our classes fully prepared. And when I say they were fully prepared, I mean that they had plans, whether those plans were mental plans, or plans that they have evidence for. Whether it was in a notebook, on a piece of paper. So did this happen with you? Because it happened with me so many times. Bara, go ahead.
Yes, for sure. To be honest, I think it gives more organized learning because it ensures that the content is presented in a logic sequences, which will help me and help my students at the same time.
Yeah, you're
Also,
talking about why or the value of planning, right?
yeah, why we
Yes.
should have to plan before and prepare.
Yes.
In addition, it gives more clarity. It provides me clear objectives and aims. It would make it clearer and easier for my students to understand.
And also, I think to keep you in check, otherwise you will
True.
digress. You're going to go here and there. If you don't have a
Yeah, and
plan in mind, you have this tendency to talk about so many things, and
yeah, you
obviously
will
they are
never
very
know how to balance.
yes, yeah.
Also, for example, at the end of the semester or class, it will help you in assessment. It helps in evaluating your students and their progress.
I don't know how, but that's fine. I'm not very clear on this idea of assessment and how planning can help? Yeah, Bara.
I think it's about when you being effective or not, like effective enough or not. Also on adjustments in the future lessons maybe.
Yeah,
But
and this,
in
yeah,
general, yeah, in general, I think planning and structuring lessons contribute to more effective and engaging learning.
yeah, yeah, because you know what to do and when to do it and how to do it. This is what planning is about. It's about the what, it's about the how, and also it's about the when, right?
Sure.
So planning also gives you the space and the scope to think ahead of the things that you're doing, that you're going to deliver to your students. So
Sure.
it's one way, it's more or less like a rehearsal, if you see what I mean. Prova.
Bravo.
Yes, you are rehearsing before you are on the stage performing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, very brilliant ideas. Thank you, Bara. Thank you so much for them. So
My
planning
pleasure.
is, yeah. So planning is very important. Structuring your lessons is part of your planning, and it's a stage. If we divide, teaching or lessons into stages, so you will have the pre lesson stage, which is going to be planning, and you will have actual teaching. This is during the lesson, and then you have post lesson stage, which is the idea of reflecting on what you have done and where you did good and where you went perhaps wrong. um, okay. So lesson structure or structuring concerns the way your students get from where they are now to where you want them to be. So you have 2 points that you're moving between. Where are they now and where you want them to be at the end? This is why structuring is important. You're structuring the stages that can lead you to where you want them to be, where they want them to be in terms of the skills that you're giving to them or the language that you're trying to, teach them. Think about a good lesson that you have been taught when you were a student or you yourself taught, and decide what made it successful. So think. Let's talk about that. What makes a lesson successful, in your opinion? A language lesson, to be more specific.
If it's engaging and interactive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
interactive and engage. Yes. Do you think
yeah.
that planning is part of that? You plan for the lesson to be engaging, you plan for the lesson to be interactive.
Yeah, I think you have a plan to have it engaged. Yeah, you do.
Okay. So engagement does not come just like that. You have to plan for that by having certain activities, right? By balancing the activities, by knowing when to say what and how, right? Okay.
I think it's more for the students to produce, and so you want them to be able to do that. So you have to have it engaging enough and not just in a matter of you just lecturing them, and it'd be more interesting for them um, in the class.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is planned, sometimes it is the activities can be spontaneous.
Yes, but we wouldn't depend entirely on the activity being spontaneous, right? Because sometimes it doesn't happen, right? So you make provisions for things to be spontaneous, but you need to plan for the rest, right?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay. So what were the stages in the lesson? If we're talking about successful lessons, do you still remember any of the lessons that you have been given? Do you still remember the stages that teachers used to engage in? It can be logical, and it is logical at the same time. So the stages of a lesson, and to be more specific, the stages of a successful lesson. It should have what? Do you first of all believe that it should be divided into steps and stages? What do you think? Yeah, yeah, there has to be stages and steps, right? One stage or step leads to the other, right? You can't have a lump sum, right? Mm. But
I think it's a good to start with preparation, like planning and organizing. Then we will move to introduction, like present lessons goal and connecting knowledge. Because many of our teachers will ask us, "Do you know about this idea, or do you have any background?" And
mhm.
start to exchanging the information.
Yeah, you're trying to kind of
Make a connection.
elicit. Yes, you make a connection with whatever they have done before, because you're not assuming that
Yeah.
they were born yesterday, right?
Yes,
Especially
exactly.
with
And
language.
yeah, it feels also it's like a warm up activity for your students.
Mm.
Then you will start with your presentation, like introducing your content or skills through a direct instructions or explanation in general. Then we will go to practice maybe.
You know, I hate the word explanation, right?
Yeah.
We don't explain anymore. We clarify, right?
Yeah, exactly. Clarify.
Yes, yes,
And we will go for practice, like you allow
mm,
your students maybe to apply what they have learned through the guided practice activities.
yes.
I mean, this stage is often can include exercises, maybe role plays, or you can sometimes make a group work.
Mm.
It works sometimes where your students like practice their new language.
Yeah,
Then maybe we will go for production or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
students use the new language or skills more
yeah,
independently in more free way,
yes,
demonstrating their understanding and ability.
yes. Yeah. So, and you normally have stages for production.
Yeah,
You
I
have what we call controlled practice, which is not very, well, I cannot really call it production. It's practice, and we
practice.
normally call it controlled because we want to make sure that they are getting things right.
Nice.
So they don't lose confidence, right? And then when you now made sure that they did it right, you move to the freer practice stage, where they use the language or the skill that you have been working on. And sometimes you'll have to have a stage where you're giving them feedback and you're even receiving feedback
Yeah,
from them.
and maybe a closure, like a concluding era, the lesson with a brief recap, answering any remaining questions, sometimes providing a preview of the next lesson. Some of our teachers did it, and to
Yeah,
maintain continuity and motivation.
yeah, yeah. Perhaps preparing them for the upcoming lesson. Yeah, these are very logical stages, and one thing leads to the other. Thank you, Bara, so much. Let's look at them and see how they go. So these are the normally the stages that people in ELT agree on or two. So this is how we structure lessons: um, introduction and focus, and then presentation of the focus, then controlled practice, and then freer practice. And then you check at the end in the feedback stage whether they have assimilated and processed what you have been giving them or not. So these are five main stages when it comes to how you structure your lessons, and they are very logical. Of course, you start with an introduction, and of course, within the introduction, you give the focus, and then you elaborate on the focus by providing the focus itself in a stage, in an independent stage. And now that you have presented the focus, and presented, it means that you may have used one of the presentation methods. Remember, we spoke about PPP, we spoke about TTT, and other frameworks. So one of them presents the focus, and then now that you have clarified the language or the skill, you move to the stage where you allow them to practice in a controlled way. And then when they practice, you move to the freer practice stage where you produce, they use the language or the skill that they have practiced in a freer way, in a more independent way, if you like. And then there should be a stage where you check how much learning happened. It can be feedback stage. Okay, so this is more on these stages. I would like you to read them on your own. Production and focus, presentation of the focus, controlled practice, freer practice, and then checking learning. Clear?
Yes, clear, doctor.
Okay. Let's move on. Okay, so how do you um, do that? So obviously, this is more of an abstract kind of thing that you need to translate into material things, material steps. And that would take the form of a framework. And this is one of the frameworks that we are familiar with. Remember, presentation, practice, production, PPP. And remember, this is something that we use whether we're talking about skills that you're trying to transfer or language that you're trying to teach. So you have the presentation stage, you have the practice stage, and you have the production stage. If you're going to kind of fit in those five stages, where would they fit? Presentation would be what, practice would be what, and production would be what? Okay, so you have presentation, you have practice, and you have production. So when I say introduction and focus, where would that fit? Presentation, practice, or production? What do you think?
Presentation.
Absolutely, right? Introduction, yeah. Okay, so presentation of the focus would be also presentation. How about controlled practice? Controlled
Definitely in
practice,
practice.
Be
yeah,
practice.
Yes,
Practice.
yeah, yes. And then freer practice. Freer production, practice is production,
Would
right?
be also practice or production?
It would be more into the production stage. Look at them. Obviously, this is the traditional way. This is the easiest among them. Very clear, very straightforward, right? And obviously not very learners centered. It's easier, especially for new tutors. It's a very straightforward framework until they are they master the skills and they move to other frameworks. And one of those frameworks is this one. Remember the test, teach, test, TTT. This is a new one, not a new, but perhaps more geared into the idea of learners' um, centeredness, where you don't assume that students don't know and then you present right away. You check how much they know and you build on this knowledge. You check by giving them a quiz, a task, okay, meant to elicit information from them. Some of them will give you what you want. They show you that they know what you're going to talk about. Some of them will not. So you're going to tailor and adjust your pace and you adjust the stuff that you have accordingly. This is the value of the test, teach, test approach or framework. So if we try to fit in the 5 stages that we spoke about when it comes to sequencing and structuring, this is how it's going to look. Introduction and focus. In the test stage, you set up the focus of the lesson. You say what you want people to learn and why. You set a task to see how much they can already do. And then you move to the teach stage where you're presenting and practicing and you're allowing them to practice. You elicit, explain, and exemplify the language or the skill. You set controlled tasks to help learning along and help all of uh, um, I mean all of them, you know, by checking learning and stuff. And then the test stage where you set a new task. You're trying to kind of measure how much they have benefited. You started off with a test and you're ending up with a test which is more, you know, a little bit similar to what you have done. You try to allow them to retry applying the newfound knowledge to a new similar task. So this is something that new tutors don't normally start with. Normally, people have this, the presentation practice production approach or framework. This is again easier for new tutors, and then when they get things right, and over time they can try with other approaches and other frameworks, and the TTT approach, test, teach, test, happens to be one of them. And here we have a comparison between the TTT approach and the PPP approach. I would like you to reflect, to look at those differences and look at the benefits and the drawbacks of each one of them. I'll give you a couple of minutes, not a couple of minutes because it's big and it needs processing and reflection. I'll give you 4 minutes for that. Go ahead. Okay. So what do you think? Let's talk about the benefits and the drawbacks of the PPP approach or framework. Any ideas? Yeah, Budur, go ahead.
PPP is more familiar for the learner and the teacher. It's it has a obvious framework. It also very time efficient. It wouldn't take like most of the time for the teacher to teach and like take the whole class time. It also what else? Oh, it's good for new tutors
Mm.
aren't very experienced.
Mm.
It's very it's very obvious framework. They won't get like maybe lost or confused
Yeah,
when they present their ideas. As for the drawbacks, it can be dull, boring
yeah.
sometimes. Um,
Because if you're doing it every day, your students
yes,
will expect what will come next. And
definitely.
obviously, yeah,
It's,
this is kind of
that's not what you want.
yeah. So you need from time to time to inject excitement and vibes, and that doesn't happen if they know what to expect, right?
Exactly.
Yes,
Which makes it more of a the teacher centered, not very learner centered.
yes. Thank you, Budur. How about the other one, the other approach, the teach test, the test teach test? What are the benefits and the drawbacks, if any? Still remember? What did we say about the test teach test? I remember that we said that it's not for um, new tutors. it would need more experience, obviously, right? What else did we say about it?
It's good for learners who are open for taking risks. Sorry,
Yes,
but other learners who are or don't want to try new things or any want routine, it would be hard for them to.
yes. Yeah, and it would you wouldn't try it with beginners, right? You would try it with
Yes,
more
definitely with
advanced
advanced
students.
learners.
Yes. Okay, let's move on. And then we move, this was structuring. Let's move to planning and why people plan. And we said that planning, this is how we started actually. Planning is very important, like I said. And let me not spoil it for you if I haven't already. So these are some reasons why we have plans for lessons. 3 good reasons to have plans for lessons or for a lesson. I think I need to drop either a or the s, right? Lessons doesn't work. So look at those reasons and see whether you agree with them or not. 3 reasons, 3 good reasons why we have plans in a lesson. I hate it when I see a mistake and I cannot. Me. Yes, this is better. Okay. So very logical, right? So these are very good reasons why we have to have plans for lessons, right? One
Yes.
big concern would be that if you don't have a plan, you have this tendency to mix things up, right? Because you haven't planned. So the stages can also suffer. You can have a stage in not being done in its proper time, can have another stage replacing the other. I mean, you can have the whole thing jumbled up, right? Again, having a plan is like having a roadmap. You're on the road, and obviously you need a roadmap. Your plan in our postmodern terms, your plan would be more like your GPS, right? You need to have a GPS so that you can move safely and comfortably anywhere. So a lesson plan can do just that. Again, if you have a plan for this semester and it's the same curriculum, obviously you don't have to repeat yourself or invent the wheel. So you can um, add minor uh, things to it and the next semester. You don't have to start from scratch, right? Again, planning is very scientific because it's logical, because it gives you the space and the time to think about how to organize something, right? So planning is also about focus and variety. Focus and variety. Focus because we want our lessons to be purposeful and orderly. If you have a focus, it means you know what you are in the class for. You know why this lesson is given. It has a purpose and it has a meaning. Okay, if you have focus, it means that you're orderly. You're doing stuff in an organized way so that you can uh, reach your um, goal or your aim. So focus without variety can also uh, can sometimes backfire. You can't just or you cannot only have focus. You have to have focus and variety. Variety because we want to keep our learners involved and stimulated so that they can reach the goals that you have for them. So focus and variety are also very important when it comes to planning. Okay, so now we're talking about lesson planning, and one very important item when it comes to planning would be the idea of aims. Remember when you said that you have to have aims, you have to have a purpose. You don't do stuff for their own sake. You're not in a class just for the fun of it. You have reasons, you have purposes, and you are trying to reach those aims. Um, so those aims, if they are going to be part of what you're planning for, have to be very clear. Aims have to be clear. You have to write them in a clear and in a meaningful way. You don't confuse and mix between aims and procedures. Okay, your aim is to teach your students uh, a skill or part of a skill or a language item by the end of the class. You don't describe how you're going to do it because if you describe how you're going to do it is obviously you're talking about the procedure. So lots of people have this problem of confusing aims for procedures and procedures for aims. So one very important item on your lesson plan would be your aims. Your aims, like I said, for them to be good, have to be clear, limited, explicit, achievable, and relevant. When you look at those, five characteristics of a good aim, you will find that, they all lead to each other. They don't contradict. So they have to be clear, and obviously they have to be clear for both of you, the teacher and the learners. So the learners too must know what they are trying to achieve. Limited, you don't promise them the world. So your aims should be so many, so you end up not achieving any of them. So too many aims will mean that the lesson loses focus. So both the teacher and the learners will lose a sense of purpose if there are so many. Yeah, there is obviously nothing wrong with being ambitious in class, but don't be too ambitious, right? You need to know your limits and limitations by having aims that are few, that by having aims that are achievable and that are relevant and explicit. So they have to be explicit, they have to be achievable, which means that those aims should be realistic. Um, According to the level, and also the material that you provide should help you achieve, and also the time that you set for every and each task should go with that for the aims to be achievable. And of course, relevance is very important. The aims should be very relevant. Um, the skills and knowledge you hope the learners will acquire have to be things they need. Okay, so again, good aims should be clear, limited, explicit, achievable, and relevant. And here we have examples of people confusing aims with procedures. A trap that I don't want you to fall into. So I would like you to read the two scenarios and see which of them is clearly the aim and which of them is clearly a procedure, not an aim. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Look at them. So I can see that the difference is very clear between the description of a procedure and a real aim. Obviously, the first one, when I say the students will ask each other questions about their families using have you got any, and answer using yes, I have got, or no, I haven't got any. This is obviously a description of a procedure. While if I say the learners will become familiar with the names of relations, whether we're talking about aunts, uncles, nephews, and be able to converse about relationships by asking, have you got any? And stating, I've got two brothers, I haven't got any sisters. This is obviously an aim. So this is a real aim because it states what the learners will be able to do at the end of the lesson that they couldn't do at the beginning. I think we have an exercise on that. So this is actually what I want you to do now. So I would like you to tell me which of the following are aims for lessons and which are procedures. So let's just focus on, you know, picking out the aims, the real aims among them. We have 10 um, statements, and some of them are real aims and some of them are descriptions of procedures, which we don't want. And I'll give you 3 minutes for that. Okay, so let's talk about them. So I'd like you to tell me which of them are real aims. Hmm. Can I see hands? We have Fatma. Who else? Oh, Fatma. So what? We also have Bara. Okay, let's take them one at a time. Fatma, what do you think about number one? Can you read it out loud and tell us whether this is a real aim or a procedure?
Students will exchange ideas about sports and pastime. I don't think that's a real aim. That's a procedure.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Can we move to the second one? Bara?
I think its aim the learners will be more confident speakers.
Yeah, but it's a little bit very general, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, yeah. It's an aim, but it's not a real one, or it's not a good one, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Shamsa, number three.
It is an aim.
The class will practice making question forms with conditional sentence. Do you think this is an aim? Well,
aim will learn the condition phrases.
yeah, but it's I don't know, and I don't see it as an aim. It's a
There is
procedure.
additional aims, Doctor.
Sweat.
Quest learning.
Okay, Bara, what do you think? Do you think number three is an aim?
I think, to be honest, it's a procedure. It's something like
Mm,
happening during the lesson or the
mm,
class.
mm, mm. Okay, let's move to four. At the end of the lesson, the learners will be more aware of the importance of collocation. Budur?
I think that would be an aim.
Yeah. At the end of the lesson, the learners will be more aware of the importance of collocation. If I ask how, so this is going to be
It
the
will be a
procedure.
procedure.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay, five. Fatma?
The students will present the findings of their survey to the whole class. That would be a procedure.
Yeah, that's a procedure. Now we don't know what the aim is, obviously, right? Number six. Can we have somebody for number six? The learners
The
will be
learners,
able to, yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry, the learners will be able to understand, use appropriately, and pronounce the following 10
Lexemes.
lexemes. Sorry.
Yeah,
I think that would be an aim.
yeah, yeah, more or less. Yes. Seven. Can we have somebody for seven?
A procedure.
The students will improve their writing skills in terms of planning and selecting appropriate stylistic convention. I would say that it's an aim, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an aim.
Yeah, it's linked to being an aim.
Okay, number 8. Eight.
Can I?
Yeah, absolutely. 8.
I will present and revise the main uses of the present perfect progressive using a smart board. That would be definitely a procedure.
Yeah, this is a procedure, and so, I mean, and obviously it's not about you as a tutor, right? It's about the students. Okay. 9.
Can I?
Yeah, okay.
The students will mingle to find someone who has selected the same 3 adjectives to describe their families. This is a procedure.
Absolutely. Yes. Number 10. Can we have somebody for 10?
Yeah, absolutely an aim.
Yes. Yeah, it's a name. Can we read it out loud?
Yes, for sure. Students will have gained a better understanding of the nature of verbs followed by gerunds and infinitive and be able to use them confidently.
Yes. Yeah, this is a name. Yes. We can then agree on whether it's a good aim or that. This is, but perhaps it's what is certain is. Shamsa, can we ask you to mute your mic, please? And here is an answer key. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so we're talking about the aims as a very important item on your lesson plan. What else should we have on our lesson plan? We should have procedures, and we have been talking about procedures without introducing them. And we said that we shouldn't fall into the trap of confusing procedures for aims and aims for procedures. So procedures are steps that you take in order to achieve something, and obviously they have to be logical, right? So procedures should be internally logical with clear evidence that you have thought about what you and the learners will be doing and why throughout the lesson. Again, procedures have to be presented and offered in a logical way. And we have an example here. If the focus is on pronunciation, make sure you do this before you ask the learners to use the language to communicate. So if it's pronunciation, so obviously the focus would be on pronunciation rather than on communication. Again, if during the planning, I know that perhaps a number of words are kind of difficult or something, so it's only natural that I introduce them so that students don't stumble. So you introduce them. Again, this is a procedure that you should take in order for other steps to succeed. And then a very important item on your lesson plan would be the time and timing. And timing is of the essence, and it's very, very important. Like, if you don't have a sense of time, obviously you're going to make a plan that can last for more than is required, and obviously you don't have all the time there is. You're confined in time and space. So you have to weigh everything. You have to assign um, time in a realistic way. So time is very important for you and also for the learner, because if you run out of time, which means that you haven't finished what you're supposed to finish, which means that you haven't covered the different stages that we agreed on. You left, for example, the production stage. You didn't give them enough time to practice the language, to use the language, which is a very important stage. It means that your timing is not good. It means that you haven't achieved what you should have achieved, and obviously the lesson is a failure. So learners like to have a completed learning cycle within a lesson so they can judge their own progress. And they also have short-term memories. And obviously, if you don't finish on time, or within the time that you set for yourself, and you're relying on the fact that you're going to do that next time, there wouldn't be next time, because when they come next time, they they have short-term memories. So perhaps you need to start from the very beginning, which is obviously a sheer waste of time. Again, we're still stressing the fact that if you run out of time, the final stages of the lesson suffer, and believe it or not, the final stages of a lesson are perhaps more important than anything else, because these are the stages where students use the language. And these are the times where they feel that they have done something. So if you deny them this by running out of time, it means that you haven't done anything. So when you are planning the stages of a lesson, you need to bear realistic timings in mind, and this will include judging how long it will take to introduce the topic and get people activating their ideas about it, how long it will take to explain an activity, give the instructions, and set up any grouping you want, judging whether any difficulties the learner encounter will take long or short time to fix, how long proper feedback from tasks that are crucial in terms of production from the learners will take, and which stage or stages can be safely deleted from the plan, or perhaps lengthened if the timing you have predicted turns out to be an over or under estimate. So these are very important considerations when we talk about time. And like I said, timing is of the essence. It makes or breaks. These are other considerations you need to, and these are also things that you need to think of on or in your plan. You need to check, you need to have a stage where you check learning whether they understood, whether they can apply what you have done with them, whether they can use the language. So checking learning is very important. Varying the interaction patterns. It shouldn't be you and them all the time. There should be situations where there is pair work and group work so that they can use the language freely and also safely, because they feel more confident if they speak to each other. So you need to vary the interaction patterns. You need to also allow them to record, and by recording means take down notes. What will the students take away from the lesson as a record and an aid to learning? You need to also allow opportunities where they recycle the language, they use it as they progress. And also the materials. You need to think of the materials that you're using. You need to check that it is error-free. You need to check whether it will help you and with the stages that you are using. You need to check whether the material is relevant and is kind of engaging, addressing the language aims that you set or not. So these are things that you need to think of. This is how we plan, and this is the end of it. And this is the end actually of today. What we intend to do is the following. Now that we have two different frameworks, whether we're talking about PPP or TTT, you're going to choose one of them. Now you know what goes into planning, the aims, the procedures, the timing, and the other considerations. I'll share with you perhaps tomorrow morning samples of plans or lesson plans. I would like you to look at them. One of them is going to be addressing a skill, and the other would be addressing a language system, whether it's grammar or Lexis. And I would like you to kind of choose to write one, whether it's a skills lesson plan or a language lesson plan. I'll give you the two. And then when we meet on Wednesday, we can look at them and see how relevant they are. We need to learn how to write, plans that make sense. We need to learn how to assign realistic times, how to write the aims and how to make them short and sweet. So we'll have all those considerations in mind while writing the lesson plans. Like I said, I'm going to stop on this note and with this item, and I'll see you inshallah on Wednesday. Yalla, assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Doctor.
you, Doctor.
Bye bye.